Good afternoon. 2 o'clock wall, isn't it? Okay, so you guys heard that this is my last conference here. Okay, so this is my replacement. This is Chris Napier. Chris is going to be, yeah, give him a hand. You guys are so lucky to have him. He is going to be a great leader, but he is going to be a fantastic director. Extremely intelligent, great technical and people skills, and he understands the cooperative model, right, John? Wherever John is, John's the one that hired him, John Metcalf, and so he understands the cooperative model. So he understands serving our members, and he also in our department he understands the culture of excellence that our department tries to employ every day. And so anyway, so I've just asked him just to say a couple words. Chris?
Well, first of all, I want to thank Craig and Doug for the opportunity. And I thank Dwight for all the leadership and the mentoring he's provided over the years. Has definitely been helpful. I look forward to serving you all with the same level of excellence you've come to expect out of our department. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
All right, man.
Yep.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. So I'm excited. So I told Doug, I said, hey, I got one more conference. You got to let me speak my last conference. So anyway, so he was gracious enough. So thank you, Doug. Appreciate it. So anyway, so here's what we're going to talk about today. Okay, we're going to talk about safe work practices and the leadership factor. I'm 41 years into my career. 1986. I drug a guy off a pole that was smoking. His flesh coming off in my hands. And so then within 6 months after that, I saw another guy get burned up. Witnessed it. And it changed my career. I saw what a serious injury and some fatalities in our business, how they turn out. And they never turn out good. And you might be tired of hearing about safety maybe at this conference. We got one more safety thing here. But let me just say this. If one of your guys get burnt or killed, everything else will stop at your co-op. Everything will stop. You'll keep the lights going, but everything's going to stop. And there's people in this room that understand that because they've had to deal with it. So what I wanted to do is I just wanted to talk today about what are some things that we can actually do in this room, like environments we can create, things that we can actually physically do to actually make so that the things that happen inside a building, inside a boardroom, actually impact the workers and what they do in the field, okay? I don't know how well I put this presentation together. I don't know, probably not great. Didn't get to spend as much time on it as I wanted. But the one thing I did, so I told Doug, I said, you didn't expect me to go away silently, right? So when I get done, and then when you guys are leaving today, I have 2 handouts, okay? So I made a handout I did a one-page governance guide for trustees. It's just 1 page. That's it. And it's got 6 main points on it. I did a 1-page guide for CEOs and senior staff, and it's got a little bit more. It's got actually 9 points on it. And I'd like to give them to you out as you guys are leaving. Grab the appropriate one. If you're staff, we'll give you that one. You can take some extras. I think I have enough, plenty of everything. And then some of you guys had received a coin before that we've given away in one of my other presentations when Corey Parr was with me from Federated, and we did that presentation. It's a coin, and it says Courage to Care, safety. And it's got our OEC on the opposite side. I think I got about 75 of those left. And so anyway, so the first ones that come and take one of those, I'd like to hand you that also. I'll figure out a place out there to set up. And so, but anyway, so I'm going around right now on my final safety meeting at our co-ops. And honestly, it's been more emotional than I thought it would be. just because I've come to love our co-ops so much, I really have. I love Ohio's co-ops. I get to deal with co-ops all across the nation, and I've come to love other co-ops too, and so, but it's special here, and it's like 100% engagement on the CEO level, and I think it's 100% engagement on the board level. I know that because I know all the CEOs and general managers. I don't know all the boards, and so I think it is on the boards. I can't imagine that it's not. And so with that, so this next 54 minutes is going to be special to me, and so I hope you get something out of it. So we're going to get right into it. All right, here we go. I'm going to ask you a scenario. What would you do, okay? So a contractor. A contractor was hired to do some work in a substation from a cooperative, and the contractor was going to do some maintenance and construction in the substation, and they had a 10-man crew, and the co-op decided they could not kill the substation. So the contractor had to do everything energized. They had 8 men. They had supervisors. They had substation techs. They had actually multiple technicians of different types. And then they had 2 journeyman linemen. The journeyman linemen were there because they couldn't kill the sub, so they had to do it energized. Now, the co-op had not done any kind of arc flash study at the substation. Co-op said they couldn't turn it off. The contractor agreed to do the work energized. And the 2 journeyman linemen were contract linemen that typically what they're doing every day is they're working on the lines, they're working on the power lines, they're doing rebuilds, they're doing the things that you guys see your crews doing. They're in bucket trucks and all these things, okay? So anyway, everybody's scurrying all around the substation, the 2 journeymen, and they have their groundman that's helping them there, and they're figuring out how they're going to replace this metering. So they talk about it, how they're going to do it and everything, but these 2 journeymen had never messed with primary metering before, especially in a sub. And so when they go to actually mac across the current transformer, they got the PT and the CT mixed up, and I know a lot of people in here don't know what that means. But basically, if you do know what it means that when they went from phase to load, or from line to load across that CT, they were actually going phase to ground, what would end up being about a 30 cal fire. Now, a 30 cal fire, you guys, some of you guys don't know what that means, but that's a really bad fire, okay? Someone's going to get hurt really bad in that fire. They had 8.7 cal clothing on, really bad accident. So what would you do in that situation? What would you do in that situation? Human error incident. We're going to come back to that, okay? We're going to come back to that toward the end. But I want you to think about what you would do in that situation. All right, so here we go, okay? So I'm going to give you 3 things today, 3 main things. And then I'm going to give you some sub things in those. But number 1, context is king. Context is king. Context will trump anything to do with any of your employees. We've seen it over and over. When we first started the COLT program, when we first started back in 2004, got a little bit of steam rolling in 2007, that's when I went on full time. What we saw over and over was we saw people that were learning things at school, and they'd go back to the co-op, and they would be told that they didn't need to do it that way, that no, that's not how we do things here. Context is king. Context is your environment. If we don't form the environment intentionally, how do you think the environment is formed? It's formed naturally, and it's going to be formed unintentionally in probably ways that we don't want. So with that, context is king. So I want to, how many of you guys have heard of the broken windows theory? There's probably a number of you probably have, okay? It's an urban thought, okay? The thought is that if you have an urban setting where you have windows that are broken in a building and they don't get repaired, then what is going to happen is that crime is going to come into that area. And I can vouch for that. I live in Columbus. I could actually tell a story. I don't have time to tell the story. But we actually, believe it or not, we chose to live in Columbus. We chose to live in a working class black neighborhood. That's where we live. We live on the southeast side. We chose to live there because we wanted to make the environment better there. We saw a place where we could make a difference. And you know what? It was a crime-ridden neighborhood when we started. You know what? There is no crime there at all right now. So anyway, and it is based on the broken windows theory. And so, but with that, we built there with our daughter and son-in-law in that little area of East Haven. And so, but with that, I want you to think about the broken windows. Now, I also want you to think about broken rules, okay? So you think about the context of, like, if someone goes into a place, you hire a journeyman lineman from one area, and he comes to work for you. What does he see? Does he see broken windows, or does he see windows that are in good shape? Does he see rules being followed, or does he see rules consistently being violated? Because whatever he sees is whatever is going to happen. It's going to multiply. This here is a picture of a terrible accident that many of you are probably aware of. It happened just earlier in 2025, probably about 4 or 5 months ago. Crew went out to do a job, and the crew that went out to do the job, they refused to do the job. They said, "We cannot do this job safely." So anyway, you know what the contractor did? They gave it to another crew that they knew would do it. And so you see that guy? Go ahead and put that back up. You see that guy right there? He's one of the 3 victims. That girl there no longer has a father because of the context of that contractor. "30-year-old Justin St. Clair. 2 more guys will never work again on that crew. They got that pole, they got the steel pole up into the transmission line. Started the whole thing on fire. You had all the grass on fire and everything there. Contact injuries, burn injuries. It was a disaster. Just very, very sad incident. The broken rules theory. This is, you guys have heard of human and organization performance, okay? And, we talked about human performance earlier today. That was great, by the way. But context drives behavior is one of those principles. Context drives behavior. So, in other words, the environment that we create, the environment we allow, is what actually drives behavior. Because the fact of the matter is, I want you to think about this. It's like you have all different kinds of people working for you. I like to look at, as far as when we're looking at the types of people that work, the types of linemen that work for us, I like to say there's like 2 types. We got like sensation-seeking type, and then we have like harm avoidance type. Okay, the sensation-seeking personality trait, it's like the way that you're going to tell these people is they're going to be like extroverted, they're going to be overconfident, they're going to be easily bored and restless, impatient, non-routine, unpredictable, explore new things. And then you have like these harm avoidance guys. Now, the co-op world used to have a lot of these type, and now they have a lot of these type. However, there are still some shops that are dominated more by the sensation-seeking type. The harm avoidance type, they are much more prone just to working safe. That's just naturally what they do. It was actually, I was more of a sensation-seeking type myself. I worked multiple years in the industry before I finally figured out that I was actually a dangerous worker myself. But it took me actually being around a harm avoidance personality type, Jim Toops from Consolidated, where I came from before I started at the statewide. And so anyway, with that, here's just what I want to say. I want to say I don't care if you have the sensation-seeking type or the harm avoidance type. The context is what matters. A worker's environment is more important factor in resisting shortcuts than a worker's natural tendencies or convictions. So if you have good people, even if they do tend to have shortcut, you put them in your environment, the environment that you've created, the environment that you've been working so hard, That culture that you've been working so hard for the last 10, 20 years that you've been trying to refine. You put them in that environment, then you're going to win. Now, I will say this, because it is shortcuts seen equals shortcuts done. Okay, but it's safe work practices seen equals safe work practices done also. But I will say this. It's good to know your people, because when it comes storm time and you got this guy, you got this guy here. Let me see here. You got this guy here working for you. I'm putting my arm around him. You got a 2-day outage. I'm putting my arm around him and say, hey, man, we're good. You got your crew leader, a little bit nervous, a little bit sensation-seeking, got a little bit of cowboy in him. I'm putting my arm around him and say, hey, man, we're good, okay? Take your time out there. Keep your guys safe. I need you to keep your guys safe. You just remind him. He goes, oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, all right. Do you know what that does when a senior leader takes and says, hey, man, you know, I know it's a mess out there. I know we got a ton of stuff down out there. I just needed you to keep your guys safe. There's other guys don't need to hear that, but those guys do. I needed to hear it. So with that, what I got up here next. So how do we create such an environment? Oh, I'm glad you asked. So, number one, people matter the most. People matter the most. Just hire good people. Just hire good people. People matter the most. Number one, what's your hiring methodology? What is your methodology for hiring? Is good people your number one thing? Or is it, well, we want them to go to school, we want them to have their CDL, we want them to have this or that? What is your number one thing? Don't dilute the pool with things that they can learn. That would be my advice. Don't dilute the pool of candidates where you can have because you guys have amazing people in your communities close by that know how to work, that came off of farms. It's don't dilute your candidates by having standards that can be taught, that can be learned. That'd just be definitely my, what I would say. It's that's just super important to me. And then, number two, leaders are intended to guard the gate. This environment that you've created, we all know that one person can ruin that culture, right? One person can ruin that environment. And maybe it's just one crew. But we're to guard the gate. I'm just so proud of someone in this room. Because this manager came up to me. We had a discussion. The last time I was at this co-op, we had a discussion about one of their people. We had a discussion, quite a long discussion after the meeting about one of the people. This manager came up to me last night, said, hey, I want you to know what happened. I talked to that person, exactly what we talked about. And he's been a totally different person. So we got to guard the gate, and we got to make sure the people that are in the gate deserve to be in the gate. There is no reason that co-op workers should be second class in any way. You got the best places to work. You got amazing benefits. You have an amazing environment. It's we should have nothing but the best. People matter the most. Here's kind of one of the things that I like to think about culture. Great culture is just simply the synergy that is created when good people get around each other with a great organization. That just creates great culture. That just happens naturally. It's that's pretty simple, but that's kind of what it is. So it's put a bunch of good people together in a room together with a great organization that is going amazing places, and that's how we create great culture. Number two. This is the second way, as far as we're talking about creating a great context, is clarity and expectations. There has to be expectations. We talk about accountability, but accountability is usually not necessary when we have expectations. How clear are we when we state that these are our non-negotiables? You're going to see that on both of these papers. It's what are your non-negotiables? What are they established? How are those non-negotiables How are they managed? How are they kept accountable? And it's like, we want to be inclusive, okay? It's like when we're talking about doing things and we're going places, it's like we want to be inclusive in our decisions, but then it's like, listen, this is where we're going. I want to give an example, okay? I was actually in another state, and I was working with this one co-op a little bit. And the senior leader in there, he was actually with me 3 days. And it was amazing because at the end of all the training, he ended up, he was so inclusive in all his decision making, constantly engaging the guys in the better way of grounding. And then it was like, okay, here's the policy, here's what we're doing moving forward. That's how we make progress. It's like we say, this is the direction we're going, you can get on board. Get on board, or there's not a place for you here if you don't get on board. Clarity and expectations. Have you ever seen this? Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. Go ahead and put that up, please, if you would. So, you say, what does that have to do with safety? It has a lot to do with safety. Because safety is very inclusive in every way. Because safety is so much of the environment around us. Safety is the way that we feel about ourselves. Safety is like people that we have around us. And so this Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, it was established in 1945. And the way it works is it works from the bottom up. And it cannot continue to elevate unless every one of those are actually satisfied. And so on the bottom, you're going to see some basic stuff. I'm going to say on the bottom, make sure that you're getting your guys rest on storm and everything. That's the main thing there. Everything else should be satisfied. The next one's going to be where we start working on our safety program, when we're trying to get better in our procedures, our policies. And then you move up, and now we're working into what these next three things that we can create, and we can say the co-op is the perfect place to satisfy every human need and to have an amazing program, amazing safety program because of the human needs that are satisfied. And you look on up, the next one is connection, love, and relationships. This is going to be the psychological safety that we create as leaders, saying, okay, is it safe to communicate openly here? Is it safe to be able to say things that maybe where we screwed up as a human error? Is it safe to talk? Is it safe to give recommendations, safe to give suggestions? And then you're moving on up. I love the next one because the next one here is where we get into a culture of excellence. Who was it? Max Clare, was that the tight end that came from Purdue to Ohio State? Max Clare? So, you think about that, and you heard him talk about that going from Purdue to Ohio State, and it's like, what did that transition look like? It's like going from a culture of mediocrity to a culture of excellence. Now with that, here's just what I want to say. I just want to ask you guys, do you guys maintain a culture of excellence at your co-op? Is the standard up here or is it down here? Because one of the things that I've seen in the past and at various times, just because of it's hard to keep linemen sometimes, and so we put the bar down here. It's like, we don't want to make any linemen mad. Let me tell you, I don't want to work for a good enough co-op. Don't put me at a good enough co-op. I want a culture of excellence. I want to be the best. I want to take my gifts and my talents, and I want to be the best. Like Max Clare when he decided to go from Purdue to Ohio State, and now he's operating at a whole new level. I love, and I'm going to go back to this slide, but I love what Stephen Covey says. Pretty simple guy, right? He just said, people just simply feel better about themselves when they're good at something. And so when your people get good at something, and when you have a culture of excellence, and you can say, and I hope that the guys in my department feel that way. It's like, if you get hired in our department, you know that you've had to be at a different level. It's like, we're only going to hire the best in our department. That's all we want. We're going to serve at a high level. We're going to operate at a high level. And so my question is this: do you guys demand that at your location, in your office? Do you demand that at your co-op overall, and do they actually transfer that into the field? Is there a culture of excellence in the field? Do the crew leaders have a culture of excellence? Do they debrief? Why are our crew leaders not debriefing after a day's work? Why are they not doing after-action reviews after a day's work where we can get better every time? Because I think that we don't have the culture of excellence sometimes that we think we do. Because if we're going to have a culture of excellence, it means that we're going to continually improve. We're going to continually learn. We're going to continually raise the bar. We're going to get better and better. Now I want to go back to this. The last thing. The last thing is actually called self-actualization. It's where you ultimately reach your full potential. And it is ultimately where you invest in others. Now I want you to think about your co-op. How do you, as a co-op, what do you do? How do you rally together, okay, especially senior leaders? How do you rally together as a senior staff to work towards something bigger than the co-op? I think you do it every day, number one, on a little bit of a lower level with your members. That we all work towards serving our members. So number one, how do we maximize that? How do we maximize serving our members? How do we maximize where we get everybody that is pulling together to achieve this goal of serving our members at an amazingly high level? I think you guys do that pretty well. But I think there's more, because now I want you to think about mentoring. What do you do? How do you have your linemen that mentor your apprentices? How do you have them investing in? Is it a formal process? Are you using the apprentice development program? If not, why not? That's what that's for. It's so that you can have a culture of excellence from your journeyman to your apprentices. And it's to help the guys that have mastered their trade, that are working at an amazing level. Now they're investing in others and they feel good. And that's the only way that we reach the pinnacle of the human needs, is when we give ourselves away. We give our time, we give our talents, we give our treasure away. So how are we doing that in the co-op world? When it starts becoming about me, have you guys ever noticed that when it starts becoming about the employee, that it becomes a culture of complaining? Have you guys noticed that? A culture of entitlement? It's a terrible culture when it's a culture of complaining and a culture of entitlement. All right, what do I got next here? The third thing on this, Sidney Decker. Some of the best minds in safety come from across the seas, over in Europe. And Sidney's one of those. And anyway, he says that you can tell culture by one thing. He said, I can tell you culture that, is it safe to give the boss bad news? He said, that'll tell me everything I need to know about your culture. Is it safe to give the boss bad news? Because if it's not safe to give the boss bad news, your culture is not good. If it's safe to give the boss bad news, only the strongest leaders know how to respond and not react. I loved hearing that earlier today in here. So we respond. So how do you respond? When you get bad news, when you find out maybe you're not near as good at something, when you find out one of your people have messed up, how do you respond to that? Do you say, hey, you know what? Yeah, let's talk about this. Or is there a knee-jerk reaction? Is there immediate actions taken? Or do we say, hey, you know what? No, we're going to talk about this. So anyway, psychological safety, safe to take interpersonal risks, speaking up with ideas, asking questions, admitting mistakes, offering concerns. I got too much of a good thing too. I'll actually be doing a presentation at the Safety Summit in April. If anybody, hopefully there's a bunch of you in here that's going to the Safety Summit this year. I'll be I'm on Thursday at 10:30, I think, or 9:30 to 10:30. TMGT, I'm going to be talking about TMGT if you want to know what that is, okay? So anyways, too much of a good thing, okay? It's actually called, my presentation there is going to be called Avoiding Unintended Consequences in the Evolution of Safety. So you guys saw this guy earlier today, didn't you? Mr. Richard Fagerlin. So anyway, Richard, this is, I told him, I said, hey, Richard, full disclosure, man, I'm going to be putting one of your slides up there. But culture is the sum of what you permit and what you promote. What are you permitting? What are you promoting? Do you have a low bar? Do you have a high bar? You say, yeah, but if I keep the bar too high, then I have guys quit. That's all right. Those are the guys you don't want anyway. Believe me, you're going to make it through. If you need help on safety, contact us. We'll work with another co-op. We'll work with us, with our department. Contact us. If you get put in a hard way to go because one of your people that could not live up to your standards had to go, contact us. We'll work through it together, okay? We'll make a plan together. Culture is the sum of what you permit and what you promote. I love that. Number 2, okay, so number 1, context is king. Number 2, SIF prevention is intentional. SIF prevention, it's not a big deal until it is, because it's not very often that we lose somebody. We've had 2 phone calls. I've been doing this job 13 years. I've had 2 phone calls. I had a weeping CEO and I had a weeping line supervisor. Here's my goal. My goal is that Chris Napier's phone doesn't ever ring with one of you guys crying on the other end of that phone. Or one of your people. It's intentional. It doesn't just happen. Like, safety programs are hard. They take a lot of work. They take time. They take engagement. And I know there's all these other things. But my job is safety. All I care is that they're just getting back home at the end of the day. You can worry about the other things as far as like them getting the stuff done and everything. I understand that work has to get done. Believe me, when I worked, I was a worker. You can ask Phil. Where's Phil at? Phil, where you at? Was I a worker, Phil? Oh, yeah. I mean, I was too much. That's why I say I didn't know I was dangerous. I understand that we got to get the work done. But what I'm saying also is that if you have a serious injury or fatality, that it's going to be bad. It's just going to be bad in every way. So it's intentional. So commitment to zero contacts. Commitment to zero contacts. These are the logos that we did a number of years ago here in Ohio. Gloves and sleeves, testing ground, cover up, line clearance. The 4 main things. You can throw some other things in there. I know some of you guys have some other things you throw in there. I think that's fantastic. All right, so okay, there we go. Okay, here's what I want to say. I want to say that, like, it's hard when we talk about SIF prevention. It's hard because it's like a little squishy. It's like, how do you prevent SIFs? It's like, well, you got to do like a lot of things. Because why? Because like things just kind of go wrong if you don't address things. Like, if there's not intentionality on the end of the co-op, there's not going to be intentionality on the end of the crew. And so we got to have things like, we got to have a solid commitment to zero contacts program. Kudos to you guys for making that mandatory. Kudos to you all for being in that. You are the only ones in the nation that have been commitment to zero, number 1 and number 2, all 24 co-ops, every co-op in the state. You guys are to be commended for that. Give yourself a hand. A strong near-miss reporting program. Now, we can talk about what that looks like. At the bare minimum, what it has to be is open conversation, at the bare minimum. But when it reaches levels of SIF-type near-misses, we got to take it to another level. That's where we're at. Where we're at is we're taking it to a level of incident analysis, where we're actually going to analyze the things that almost happened. Why? Because that's the gold. That's the gold. That's what is the most valuable thing in here for preventing an SIF is what almost happened or what you read about that happened to someone else. Strong in-house safety meetings, weekly. We don't have everybody in the room yet doing weekly. We made a bunch of progress in 2025. Awesome, guys. You guys that started this in 2025, awesome. We're not there yet. Weekly in-house safety meetings, effective at least 20 minutes. Re-engaging. Manager in there, CEO, so you got senior staff in there, engaging and saying, listen, this is important. We're going to refocus. Quality statewide safety meetings, that's our job. If you ain't getting what you need there, you need to contact us because I think you are, but if you're not, then we need to do better. Employee training, apprenticeship, strong crew observation program. Safety culture assessments. Say, oh, I don't like to do that. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about that a little bit more, I think. Strong incident analysis program. Open communication, all kinds of formats. Third-party assessments like RESAP, commitment to zero. Speak up, listen up environment. One of the things that I have on this handout is number 3, this is for the CEO, senior staff. Model environment of care, learning, and open communication. And the second bullet point is model humility, fallibility, and accessibility for speak up, listen up culture. So there was a hospital that was having a tragic outcome once every 13 times in a certain procedure that should have not had that outcome. And it was so bad that they brought in a team of safety professionals to analyze to see what was going on. What's going on in the 12? What's going on in the 13th? You know, what's going on in the one that where it goes bad? So they're documenting everything. So they have a team. It was multiple. I think it was like around three of these safety professionals that were watching everything in the room. And what they found out that there were shortcuts on every one of them being taken. They found out that the procedures didn't match the rules, didn't match what was actually going on, didn't match the procedure. Did you guys know that sometimes that your guys deal with things in the field that there's not a rule for it? Happens all the time. Your guys deal with things all the time. They adjust. We're going to talk about that, what are some of those causes. So anyway, they brought this team of experts in, and they went through and they watched multiple people pass away, as well as many people make it through the procedure. Here's what they found out. They came out with 6 things, but they said this one here was the most important by far. They said it was the same people doing it, the ones where the patient passed away versus the one where the patient lived. They said it's the same people performing the operation. Different what? Different leader. Different leader. So what you had with some leaders is you had humility. You had them establishing their fallibility, and they created accessibility. It was funny because I was talking to Richard before he spoke this morning, and he told me, he said, you got to call me. He said, if you don't call me, he said, I'm going to say that you are not my friend. I said, you know what, I love that because that's what we have to do as leaders. It's like, we can't just say, hey, give me a call sometime. It's like, did he really mean that? He said, no, if you don't call me, I'm going to say that you're not my friend if you don't call me. And so you know what that did? It put the expectations on him going, he really does care. And that's what they found out in this study. They're saying leaders that are truly humble, that can truly have, now you think about doctors, you know? I mean, these are doctors, these are surgeons, high operating surgeons. But the ones that demonstrated humility and then they demonstrated their fallibility and said, hey, listen, guys, I'm going to make mistakes. You need to say something when you see something. That is your job in this room. And when that happened, what ended up happening is it created for the junior workers, for the junior people in the room, so that they actually had a voice. You don't have speak up, listen up culture unless you have junior workers that actually feel like they can speak. There is no speak up, listen up culture without that. I just think that's a phenomenal story. Humility, fallibility, accessibility. That's how we get speak up, listen up culture. Here's some more things. Strong hiring program, effective onboarding, training goals, life-saving rules emphasis. That's your non-negotiables. Emergency procedures, altered duty, storm training, safety coach, not cop, crew leader training, journeyman refresher, all those types of things. I want to talk about this because those are what we call leading indicators. I want to talk about lagging indicators, okay? Now I know that I just want to be real clear about when we talk about this, okay? So, like lagging indicators at 0 is awesome. That's great. You know, but the one thing I want to ask is this. Like, if you haven't had a recordable for like 7 years, who's going to volunteer to do that in your organization, especially when you talk about it all the time? Especially when it's like, hey, we've gone this long without. Who's going to be the one that volunteers for that? And I just want you to think about that because I want you to think about, I want you to think about this statement here, and I want to ask what you guys think about it. I'm going to ask, but I'm not going to open it up for conversation because I only have 20 minutes left. So anyway, but I just want you to look at this. 0 is a noble aspiration, but it's a terrible target. True or false? True or false? Yeah, go ahead and just think about that a little bit. Because I want to be real clear. Because here's where we're at. Here's where we're at, like with NRACA, with Federated, in Ohio, is that we are all about 0 SIFs, 0 FIFs. So when we're talking about 0 being the target, it is going to be the target every time. We're going to say that there is no reason with what we have available, with all the resources that you guys make available for your folks, there is no way that we have to give up any SIF injuries unless it's a total fluke. But I'm telling you, the ones that we read, the ones that come across my desk, they're not flukes. They aren't flukes at all. There is no reason why we can't hit 0 SIFs. But however, when it comes to these metrics here, what happens when we say, listen guys, it's 0, this is where it has to be? What ends up happening is a culture of secrecy. Is that what you want? What ends up happening is the problems go underground. We don't want the problems to go underground. We want the problems to be talked about. We want the problems to have open communication. We want to make it safe to have those discussions. So when it comes to SIFs, it's false. When we're talking about more minor type injuries, we're going to say things are going to happen. You're going to have someone that's going to step in a hole when they're going to set a meter sometime, and it doesn't mean that your safety program is crap. And it might happen multiple times. You might have multiple things happen. You might have rough terrain where you have multiple things like that happen. It doesn't mean that you're not doing good because you have a bad year in your metrics. Now, what time has shown us is that it is a good indicator of culture, that the metrics are a good indicator of culture. It's a terrible indicator of an impending SIF, because what has happened in our industry is that our metrics, including ours in Ohio have gone, it's been amazing. I mean, so the metrics in Ohio, I didn't put it up here, I probably should have, but our metrics in Ohio have been fantastic, gone down over the years. And that is your hard work. That's because of the culture that you're building, that you're showing that you care. It's your attention to safety. It's your attention to detail. Because you guys are listening today. By the way, thank you for listening to me. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to build a culture of secrecy, because Deepwater Horizon, they went 7 years. Can you imagine all those 126 people on a rig, and you got no incidents in 7 years? Really? Imagine that. That's because we know that was not the case. And what did it end up with? It ended up with, on April 20, 2010, ended up with 11 people dead, 17 people injured, and just one of the worst environmental disasters in American history. After 7 years of no recordable incidents. That's crazy. I'm going to ask you about your incident analysis. I'm going to take the hit on this one, okay? I'm going to take the hit on it. We're not very good in incident analysis. I'm going to ask Chris to pick up the torch and to get this thing going, because we got to get it going. If we're going to get better in Ohio, this is something we got to get better on. We got to get better at our incident analysis. I'll take it on me. It's because of my learning. I didn't learn fast enough, over the years to be able to do well enough to lead our co-ops. But what I am going to say is that we've got to, got to start getting in the mindset. Incident analysis, and it starts at the root. It starts with an after-action review. You heard last night. You heard them talking about after-action reviews. I thought that was fantastic. That's exactly right. After-action reviews is at the lowest part of our analysis, but then it moves up. Number 3, perception is reality. What your folks perceive about you, what they perceive about your safety program, is reality, and absolutely will affect what they do in the field. And that's what I love about this, It's because this gives some really practical things. And it also gives you a lot of things to expect from your people. You're going to need some education on some things. Perception is reality. So, is it operations plus safety? Or what I got here? Or is it, or do you operate safely? I want you to think about that, because here's the problem when safety is like an extra thing. The problem with a safety manager and then an operations manager is that the operations manager feels diametrically opposed at times to the safety manager. I was actually on the phone yesterday with a gentleman that used to work in Ohio, and I said, I won't say his name because you would know the name. I said, what is going on at your co-op, man? I said, I got this guy that's fighting me on the NESC, and it's from your co-op. I said, why is he fighting us on this issue? Because I sit on Subcommittee 8 of the National Electric Safety Code, and I have a very important change proposal for the 2028 code cycle in. So anyway, I said, what is going on? He said, I have been fighting him ever since I've been here. He said, he is just against me in everything that I try to get done on safety here. He just opposes anything that has to do with safety. That's what happens when it's something extra. It's like, safety's a nuisance. It's a weight. But if we just operate safely, if the safety is a value, it just permeates into everything we do, and it's just as part of what we do. It's just part of who we are. Because if it's operations plus safety, come storm time, it's going to be operations plus get her done. That's what's going to happen. If it's two different things, that's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to change priority, and it's going to be get her done. And I'm so proud of some of the people in this room that have spoke up in national meetings, my boss, about things like this, like during storms and that type of thing. So here's what I see. I see operating safety, or operating safely, is the future of safety. It is what is happening. It is the way that safety is evolving, and it is what I believe in the best organizations, what you're going to have is you're going to have safety managers at every manager level, whether it's the engineering manager, whether it's the operations manager, you're going to have safety managers, and then you're also going to have your compliance guys, you're going to have your guys that make sure that everything is running, but everything comes through that department. There is nobody that should understand safe operations more than the operations manager, and if that is not the case at your co-op, that is an issue. Because we are not 100% yet. In Ohio, we are not 100% there. But that's where we want to get. We want to get where we're operating safely, where the operations manager, where it's like that's what he does. It's like, why would I tell you operations and then why would I tell you safety? No, it's just doing the job right. So I got a question for you. I want you to think about like one specific attribute that sets great linemen apart. One specific attribute. Because I know what I think it is. I think it's the ability to adapt. That's what makes great linemen great, is they adapt, because they are thrown into so many situations. I mean, one situation after another, especially like when you go out of town and you're in a different territory, or you're working on transmission or whatever it is, and it's like it's the ability to adapt. But you know what that does? When it's like you have your best linemen that have the ability to adapt, did you know that drift is a main trait of adaptive human behavior? So in other words, what I'm saying is that your best lineman, when you say, yeah, that dude is a good lineman, you know what? He's also one of the most prone to drift in his safe work practices. Good to know, isn't it? Now you got Mr. Safety over here. We talked about that, and this guy's also probably a sensation seeker. Now you got Mr. Safety over here that's like, you're not going to have any problem with him. But this guy over here, yeah, you're going to have problems with him if you don't watch him. Because this is drift here. This is what happens with drift. There, that top line is your safety policy, okay? And then what you have in that red box there is you have the gap that will eventually happen. If we are not doing our job in the boardroom, if we're not doing our job as a senior leader, this is exactly what will happen, is that the work practices will drift. We talked about clarity and expectations. I live over on the southeast side of Columbus. Last night we went to pick up my wife's car. We had to get, before the conference started, I had to go home, get it. We had a recall being done on it. And they totally redid everything at Bryce Road and 70. And so anyway, it says right lane ends, merge left. Now when they first put that up there, everybody was getting over into the left lane, but it's very busy there. And then when people found out what the truth is, then what they found out was they're going, Well, I know that's what the sign says, but that's not what it means because people from the left have to go to the right. And so now, guess what? The sign says merge left, but the truth is you need to stay in the right if you're going to get in there because it's busy and the people coming in from the left got to get on your side. So do you have mixed signals is what I'm saying. There's all kinds of mixed signals there. So what are your mixed signals? Do you have any mixed signals? Do your rules say one thing, but yet do you enforce them a different way? Do you talk about them, oh, it's okay, you know, it's this, that, whatever. Clarity and expectations, because what ends up happening, if we're saying one thing with our safety policy and we enforce it a different way, what ends up happening is we end up with that gap. And then you can see kind of what ends up happening. Then we have some things on the bottom I don't have time to talk about today. This is what we want, strong safety culture. Strong safety culture works hard to seek out truth. Strong safety culture works hard to seek out truth. You know what strong safety culture does? They want all the information. Give it to me. Give it to me. I don't care how bad it makes me look. Give it to me. I got to have the information. I got to keep my folks safe. Give it to me. I'll filter through the bad. I'll filter through the good and the bad. Just give me the information. I'll figure it out. I got to have as much information as possible. I want RESAP. I want commitment to zero. I want safety culture perception surveys. I want it all. Give me all that information. One co-op in here, we helped them go through 3. And they're in awesome shape now. It was rough on the first one. They're in awesome shape now. I don't feel the freedom to say who it is. You guys are all doing a ton of co-ops in here doing an amazing job. But that was just so satisfying to watch that co-op just do amazing things with that. So we got to draw a line in the sand. A line in the sand. So willful violations are to be dealt with one way. Human error is to be dealt with in a totally different way. We've got to understand that. Willful violations is one thing. Human error is another thing. They can both, something bad can happen with both of them, but a willful violation, there is no part at any of the co-ops that are represented in this room, there is no part for a willful SIF violation. There's just no room for it. So what do you allow? And then where's the line drawn? Because like on grounds, you say, yep, that line's got to be ground. Okay, are you enforcing that the grounds are cleaned before you put the ground on? Because if the ground isn't cleaned, I just read an accident last night. Just read it last night where a guy was working on, he was working on a grounded line, but he was climbing the pole. And when he was climbing the pole and the line ended up coming back energized, it was grounded, okay? Don't have time to talk about grounding today. I'd love to. But anyway, and the guy makes contact while he's touching the line comes energized and it burns him. Because why? Because that line is going to come energized 17 to 24%, even if it's effectively grounded. Are the grounds being cleaned? Are they doing it right? Are they just going through the motions? So anyway, are we drawing a line in the sand, and then where is that line? Are you allowed to go 60 if it's 55? Are you allowed to go 64 if it's 55? Or is it 55 on the SIFs and 60 on everything else? I don't know. I'm just saying this is just reality. The reality is that I can go home today and I can break the speed limit rule by 5 miles an hour and not ever have a chance of getting pulled over by a cop. That's just the reality. And so mixed signals, we want to make sure that there are no mixed signals with life-saving rule violations. This is the line. This is it. And you know what? When we make that expectation, then we don't have to worry about accountability usually. It's like, this is the line. And then when someone does cross that line, it's dealt with quickly, it's dealt with severely, and everybody understands that it was done exactly what said was going to be done with that. Just about done here. I want to go back to this human error incident. So you guys remember that incident? What would you do? The fact of the matter is that there were a number of organizational failures in that story that I told you at the beginning of this presentation. There were all kinds of organizational failures. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to treat it like a human error incident. And we're going to have, so this here would be how weak leadership would tend to take care of a human error incident. Knee-jerk reaction, blame. Discipline administered at the surface level, everything surface level, trusty roads, open communication stops, people stop talking, management is unaware of issues, driving everything underground, right? We're talking about driving everything. Everything is going to be driven underground. Organizational weaknesses persist, but you know what? Here's how we take care of it. Here's how strong cultures go stronger, and here's how you guys are learning to do. I'm so proud of you guys. This is what you guys are starting to do. You guys say, you know what? We can either get better or we can get worse from this. So the senior safety team is actually going to take time to discuss this thing. And then at that point, you're going to have an after-action review. If you need to take it to another level, take some analysis to it, you're going to do that. You're going to look at some contributing root causes identified, and then you're going to get better. You're going to get the corrective actions done. You're going to get better. You're going to have proper time and attention that's actually going to be given to it. If you don't have enough time to give attention to the things that come up, then you don't have enough time to operate a co-op. Because these things, you're going to have to deal with them at some point. Like, do we need extra help here or not? And so anyway, with that, the organizational weaknesses are addressed and expectations are stated, and we maintain open communication through an environment of trust. Isn't that awesome? I love that. I don't have time. I'm not going to talk about the enormous radio. I want you to look at that picture. I want to just say, what are you building with your co-op? What are you building? What are you building with your employees? Where are you going? You got them going in a direction. You got them building the big picture. Are they all working together? Are they all working hard? Because what ends up happening, if we're not busy building something, we're typically busy tearing something down. It's like, what are we doing? What are we doing as a co-op where we're working together and we're making an amazing thing? And I just want to say that I'm proud of you guys because you guys are. These are the handouts that I'm giving you today, okay? These are the handouts that are going to be back there for you. And with that, I just want to say that it has been amazing. My time here has been amazing. You know, I went to work I started in the industry in '85. I got hired by Morrow Electric in 1994. We became consolidated, I think, in 1996. Went to work for the statewide in 2007 and became the director of safety in 2013. And it has been amazing. I told Chris today, I said, I can say something in my career, I can say something that very few people can say. I can say that nobody held me back from doing my job right, from using every gift that I had, every ounce of energy that I had, nobody held me back. They gave me an environment that was amazing. They gave me support. And everything that I needed to be effective in my job. There is not one more thing that I could have asked for working for y'all. It's been amazing. So I just want to thank you. Appreciate it.